Welcome to day 16 of 30 days of IBS foods. Today is peppers. You might call them bell peppers where you're from, but peppers are something people don't really realise can be high FODMAP. I'm going to explain something today about why they're good for you, how to eat them, and why they might be causing you problems even though you didn't really realise that they were high FODMAP. There are many different colours of peppers, so ranging from the sweet red bell peppers to green peppers, which are also sometimes quite sweet but more have a bitter taste. These green ones are really good for your eyes, for example, because of this carotenoid antioxidant compound called lutein. Being low in lutein is linked to macular degeneration and also effective eyesight. Other foods that include lutein are kale, spinach, courgettes, and kiwi. So there's a range of other foods that also have this benefit, this particular compound, carotenoid it's called, that it can really help with heart health, but also it's really clearly linked to eyesight health. So for anybody who wants to protect their eyesight throughout their lives, this is a good reminder of why having a range of foods is going to be helpful for you. Red peppers contain lycopene, which is also very good for your eyes. Also is good for prostate health, for your heart and blood pressure. So lycopene we covered on the first day, which is red tomatoes, is also rich in red peppers. And the peppers just generally are really good for vitamin C, which supports your immune system, helps us to fight off infections, pathogens coming in. So normally we're thinking about viruses like that, like coughs and colds, but also thinking about gut infections. If you're listening to this, then you probably have some sort of digestive issues. We want to try and make that immune system as strong as possible to keep the barrier for infections down. So the barrier is the lining of the gut, but it was also the host of microbes that are sitting in and around that gut wall, protecting us, keeping us safe. We want to try and make sure that that is as strong as it can be. That is why they're good for you. Now, the way that they may impact on your digestion is peppers are high in fructose. Now, a lot of people do not realize that peppers are part of this fructose family. We think about fruits, maybe like grapes, honey, mango. These are also high in fructose, but did you know, for example, broad beans are high, and asparagus and artichokes are all high in fructose? And so it's not just the things that we typically think of as fruits, but obviously peppers, they are a fruit of the plant, but we think about them as more as a vegetable because they're not as sweet as other things like maybe grape. The colour of the fruit, the pepper, will give us an indication of how much fructose is in there, and so how much of a reaction we might have. So green peppers are lowest in fructose, which means you can eat more of them before you hit that fructose FODMAP tolerance limit. So a quarter of a pepper, or is around 75 grams, 80 grams, that's a quarter of a big pepper, will be completely fine. If you have a little bit more than that, it's probably also fine. The moderate portion for FODMAP starts at 250 grams. So you can probably have a little bit more and over that low FODMAP portion. But for yellow, orange and red peppers, the portion is much, much smaller. It's somewhere between 38, 40, 42 grams is the level at which the fructose becomes higher and more likely to cause a problem if you're sensitive to fructose foods. If you get a reaction to grapes, mango, orange juice, maybe peppers are part of the picture. Now, cherry tomatoes and peppers are two of the foods that I find, because people don't almost believe that they're high FODMAP, they bring them back in without proper testing. And if you've been on a low FODMAP diet for a really long time, what I would do is try to go strictly low FODMAP before you start reintroducing foods, because then you will understand more about whether certain foods you've brought in the last 2 years, for example, have caused some of the problems. We want to go strictly back to the low FODMAP restriction phase before you start then reintroducing foods, and notice, does a small amount of some of these foods interfere with your digestive processes? It may be, maybe not. But where you might have honey on your porridge, maybe you have red peppers with your lunch, you have a handful of cherry tomatoes with your dinner, you could be having multiple fructose foods. If you suspect that these are potentially a problem, what I would do is completely strip them all out and then reintroduce them, doing the proper FODMAP reintroduction process, which is to have a little bit on day 1, a bit more on day 2, and a bit more on day 3. So the way you would start to do that and reintroduce them is to have around that 40 grams portion. That's literally like 2 big strips of red pepper. That would be enough to trigger you into a moderate FODMAP amount. And then if you carry on increasing that, you will soon get into a high fructose meal. If you don't have a sensitivity to peppers or you've never tested them, then including small amounts of pepper can be really helpful to give you that extra vitamin C, that lutein that I mentioned, which is so good for your eyes. So don't forget to include these foods in your normal cooking, especially the green pepper. I know it's a bit more bitter, it's not as nice to eat, especially raw, but it is really good in a curry, in a stir fry, and you can even put it into pasta dishes such as bolognese as well. So small portions of peppers, especially when they're cooked, could be well digested, but larger portions may give you some symptoms such as bloating, gas, diarrhea, etc. if you're sensitive to fructose. So I hope that's explained a little bit more about peppers and eating them when you have IBS. Join me tomorrow to hear about another IBS food.